Hello, this is Mrs. Klein. By now, I have probably shared with you a letter introducing myself and telling you a little bit about the story of my life. In this unit, we're going to be talking about stories and patterns, and we're going to learn that stories, while they're often told in words, don't actually have to be told in words. Stories can be told in images and through sounds and many different ways. And a map is actually a type of story. So in this video, I'm going to share this map with you to present a story of my life. This video is also kind of like a rough draft idea for the final project that you're going to be doing. It's also a way for me to try out something new that I haven't done before. So I'll probably make some mistakes, and that's okay because I'm learning, you're learning, we're all learning together. So the story of Mrs. Klein began in Chicago, Illinois, where I was born. And my name was not Mrs. Klein then, it was Trisha Klein. And I was born in Chicago, Illinois, and I lived there for 18 months. And then my father got a new job, and so we moved to New Orleans, Louisiana. So, New Orleans, Louisiana is maybe best known for its music, its food, and Mardi Gras, a big celebration that it has every year. The Mardi Gras colors are purple and green and yellow, and I'm sure there's some reason for that that I don't know. So, that's why I colored it this way. In New Orleans, I don't have a lot of memories. We only lived there for about another year and a half. Just before I turned 3, my sister Tori was born. So she was born here in New Orleans. So there were 4 of us. And then, right around when I turned 3, my dad got another new job and we moved to Houston, Texas. So I lived in Houston from the ages of 3 to about 7, I think. I went to kindergarten and first grade in Houston. And then my dad got another new job. And so we moved to Dallas, Texas. This was the first move that I really remembered. And you may think Dallas and Houston, they're in the same state. Like, it's not a big deal. Well, this is actually like 4 to 5 hours apart. And this was way, way back when in the 1990s when there was no like internet or cell phones or social media. So all the little friends I made in Houston, it was just like bye bye forever, moved to Dallas. We stayed in Dallas. I was there for all of the rest of elementary school, 2nd through 5th grade. 6th grade at this awesome middle school, loved it, so cool. 7th grade was going great until my father got another new job. And the spring break of my 7th grade year, we drove and we stopped in New Orleans again so my sister could kind of like see the place she'd been born. She had no memories of it. And we drove until we ended up in Woodstock, Georgia. Now, as you can see, Woodstock is really close to Atlanta. It's about 45 minutes north if there's no traffic. And this is where I finished middle school and went to high school. I am not afraid to say that I hated Woodstock. I wanted to go as far away as I possibly could for college. I was really hoping to go to back to Chicago because I had family there. I really wanted to go to college up here, but my parents said no. So I ended up going to college at UGA in Athens. Now, I loved Athens. I went to UGA and I stayed there a couple years after I graduated. But then I decided I wanted to be a teacher and I needed to get my master's degree. So I moved to Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where I went to UNC Chapel Hill. And I lived in Chapel Hill for 1 year. The next year I moved to Durham, which is a town right next to it because it was a lot cheaper and, like, who has all that money? And then I worked teaching my first job in a tiny town called STEM that was almost Virginia, but it was still in North Carolina. So I lived up here for a few years until my husband got a job offer at CNN. And so we ended moving back to Georgia, but this time we lived in Atlanta because I hated Woodstock so much. Um, and so we have been in Atlanta since 2010. And so this is the story of kind of my life and where I've lived. And this is why when people ask me where I'm from, I never have a good answer because honestly, I don't feel like I'm from anywhere. Some other places that are important to me are Tucson, Arizona. My grandparents lived here when I was a kid. Now, they weren't from here, they were actually from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Both of my parents grew up in this area. It's only close to one set of grandparents. And they moved to Tucson before I was born. And so I would spend my summers and things in Tucson, but we still had some family up here. So when I was a kid, we would drive up from Dallas, we would drive here, or we would drive here and we would stay at the cheapest, scariest hotels on the way because my dad did not like to spend money. Other important places in my life are Columbus, Georgia, and Phoenix City, Alabama. That's because that is where my husband is from. So we go back there sometimes to see his family. His dad and stepmother actually live in Hernando, and they live in Hernando, Mississippi, because it's really close to Memphis, which is where they work. So these are also places that I visit sometimes. So I hope you feel like you've learned something about me, something about how maps can be stories, and maybe a cool new way to tell a story for a future project.